Thank you very much, TJ.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Greg Rentz, and this is my first virtual fair ever. I want to welcome all 14,000 of you that are watching this presentation today. And I just want you to know, you probably are all sitting down, but you're only going to need the edge of your chair because this is going to be the most engaging, the most exciting, the most informative session you've probably seen or heard in months. In fact, we have been planning this for months. I know I have high expectations. So if you guys would just please be patient as we move through this navigating the college application topic. Once again, my name is Greg Rentz. I'm the Director of Outreach and Recruitment at Mesa Community College. I hope that all of you will engage. I know as a presenter for a number of these types of events, it really helps us if the audience is engaged in it, and I think it helps you as well. So please do use the Q&A and the chat function. Right now, I'd like to go and introduce our co-presenter, Callan. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Callan Peterson. I'm Assistant Director of Admissions at Prescott College. And as we start our presentation today, I just wanted to real quick kind of touch on our topics. Now, I've been in higher education my entire life, first as a high school teacher and guidance counselor, but more recently as an admissions counselor. So knowing the process of applying to college from both sides, plus having done it myself those many years ago, we're here today to help make sense of it all. To start off, when I worked with students as a high school counselor, I taught a 4-stage college application process: research, plan, apply, decide. Now, I know many of you are just now starting that first or second step, and those are very important steps in the process. But as our talk today is geared mainly towards the third step, applying, we are going to be, of course, focusing on those topics. So the first thing, assuming that you've done your research, talked to lots of people, found some colleges that you think are right for you, it is, of course, time to apply. The college application process can seem intimidating and confusing, but we're here to help make that process make a little more sense. Due, of course, to limited time, we're just going to stick to the following topics today. First, understanding the holistic admissions process. Second, community college applications and transferring. Third, things you can do right now to prepare to apply for college this fall. And 4, frequently asked questions. Now, to kick it all off with the topic of understanding holistic admissions, colleges typically will ask you for more than just your grades when you go to apply to college. They want to get to know you as a person, not just what your grades are. So every college puts a little bit different emphasis on different elements, and therefore talking to college counselors and asking them what they're looking for, well, they are happy to tell you because they want you to know so that you know, is this going to be the right fit for me? And you can typically tell a lot about a school by what they ask from you and what they put their emphasis on. So with that being the case, what are colleges looking for when they're looking at you? Well, first thing first, they're looking for your academic preparation, classes you've taken, grades you've gotten, test scores, ACT, SAT. Yes, when you apply to college, you will need transcripts. Typically, you will actually need to enter your core 16 classes from your transcripts directly into the application that you're completing, particularly for the state schools. On top of that, for other schools, you will need to even submit your full transcripts when it comes time to complete your application, or your school will have to do it for you. On top of that, ACT and SAT. Now, not every school requires these. It's becoming less and less common, and many schools have waived them for this current kind of COVID year. But check the school's application requirements, and if they don't need test scores, well, there's nothing preventing you from applying to that school right now. So you can do it. Furthermore, there are minimum requirements that colleges will frequently have in their academics that they're looking for: minimum GPAs, minimum test scores. Why do they have these? Well, frequently this is to sort of weed out applicants who they believe won't be able to keep up with their programs academically. But talk to your counselors. Yet again, talk with those schools and ask them, hey, I'm one fraction of a point under, or hey, I'm low. What do I need to do to demonstrate that I can still be successful in your programs? even with that low piece. After academic preparation, schools are looking for your extracurricular engagements, i.e., how did you spend your time outside of the classroom? As I mentioned, schools typically want to get to know you as a person more than just your grades, so depending on the schools you're applying to, this can even carry more weight than your grades. So it is an important one. Never disregard this. I know that in my case, frequently a more well-rounded person is going to appeal a lot more in the admissions process than someone who just has really good GPA. And on top of that, leadership positions are key. Anyone can participate in an after-school club or sport, but taking on those extra little pieces of a leadership position can have a lot of impact. The last thing that schools are typically looking at when they're looking at you is you and your story. Now, why do colleges ask for these things like essays, references, letters of recommendation? Well, simple. College, on the essay side at least, is writing intensive. Anyone who tells you anything else is trying to sell you something. And some schools want to benchmark your writing ability when they're asking for that writing score. Not every school will ask you for an essay, but many do. And as a person who reviews college applications and gives that yes or no stamp to applicants, I can say that when it comes to getting to know you, there are very few things that do that better than an admissions essay and a letter of recommendation or a reference. If a student has meh grades, but their essay demonstrates their strong writing ability and talks about their passion for, say, marine wildlife, I can feel fairly comfortable admitting them into a marine studies program. But at the same time, if a student has good grades but gives me an essay that is clearly lacking polish or revision, I'll send it back to them for a redo, and I'll be hesitant to admit them to a program that requires a lot of attention to detail. Now, I could spend hours on tips for college essay writing, but I'll leave you with these three when it comes to writing a college essay. Step one, ask your admission counselor what they're looking for in an essay. I once had a student write me a 4-page sonnet. It was the greatest admissions essay I have ever read. That student is doing great in our arts and letters program. Step two, get it revised by a teacher or parent. An unrevised, rough essay will really put people off because it may be really great at its core, but that lack of polish just shows a lack of attention to detail. And thirdly, be yourself. An essay can explain and forgive a lot of other things in an application. Low grades your freshman year because you didn't take school seriously at the time. No extracurriculars because you were at home watching your younger siblings. Bad ACT scores because you struggle at standardized testing. Explain it in your essay, and that can forgive a lot. With that being the case, I'll now hand it over to Greg to talk about community college applications.
Thanks, Callan. You know, the great thing about this presentation is Callan comes from a university, and I work at a community college. The great thing about this GoToCollege Fair is there are 30 other institutions of higher education booths that you can check out. And the reason I bring that up is because, at least for me and for all of you out there in the audience, what's really important to me is that whatever institution you choose is the right fit for you. That means they have the program of study that you want. That means they have the major that you want. That means that the cost and the pricing that you can afford, the time and the location that's best fitted you. I wasn't like all of you 30 high achievers out there. Like those of you that are here today, you know, you guys are probably in the top 10 or 15% of your class. For myself, I didn't like my family and I didn't like my life. I joined the Air Force, right? I went into school as a non-traditional student, and that was a great place to start. I have the luck, you know, I guess I really been gifted because I've been at universities and community colleges. And unlike you, I didn't know what I was going to major in. I did not know what job I wanted. All I wanted to do, I know this may sound vain, was I wanted to make money. So let's go ahead and talk about the application process as it refers to a community college. The most important thing I want you to think about is when you go to community college is that the application process is always open. 24/7, 365 days a year for most community colleges. Like the ones in Maricopa, we believe in low cost or no cost. So the fee itself, there are no fees for the application. There are no set time frames. In fact, a lot of our students, they choose to go to a community college perhaps 2 or 3 months before the school begins because, you know, their plans had changed. So you can go ahead and apply at any time. You need to create an account just like everyone. It's issued, it's equivalent, and you have to prove your identity. And what's the next bullet, please, Cal? All right, so when we're talking about applying for a community college, you do need to have official transcripts. The great thing about a community college, at least in Maricopa, is what we have is multiple measures. So it doesn't mean that you have to go and take an AccuPlacer test in reading, writing, or math to see where you stand. We used to do that. Now we'll go by your GPA in high school. We'll go by your SAT scores. We'll go by your class rank, things of that nature. So make sure that when you're applying for a community college, you can go usually to their testing sites, and they'll indicate the multiple measures that are available for you to be admitted. Next slide, please. Many higher educations are currently closed. I did want you to know that a lot of the educations, because of this pandemic, this abyss that we are in, has I think in a sense, it's really helped us because now all of our services are provided and delivered virtually. This could be the case at a college. I know it is at our college, right? We have about, I don't know, 18,000 students on camp are enrolled at Mesa Community College, but only 1,600 of them are actually on the campus itself. And that might be because of chemistry lab. It might be because they're in a career and technical education program like welding, like nursing. Now let's talk about what to consider if some of you out there like me are interested in going to a community college for 2 years and then transferring. I can tell you one thing. This is what ASU says to us. They say that community college students that start at ASU compared to those that started at a community college, number one is they have a higher GPA when they graduate. Number two, they graduate sooner. Remember, this is what ASU is saying to us if they started at the community college. And of course, number three, they saved a ton of money. But it's very important for you to research your university. It's very important for you to select a major. Now, as I said in the very beginning, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what major I had. In fact, I chose psychology because I loved social behavioral, how people think. I went in there for like 2 years and I'm like, a year and a half, I'm not going to make a lot of money with undergraduate. So I shifted to a business degree. I thought that's where the money would be. In fact, it was, and I enjoyed it. So it's important for you to select your plan and your major, especially if you're transferring. Let's go to the next slide. A couple. So what I want you to think about most of all is you want to work in concert with your university or college advisor as well as your community college advisor. A lot of the colleges now, when you apply, they are going to have multiple what we call our bridge programs. Programs that will allow you to enroll at ASU and make sure that you're not taking any classes at Mesa Community College or any other Maricopa community colleges that you don't need at the same time. In fact, that plan is called a MAP. ASU calls it the MAP, NAU calls it NAU to NAU, and U of A calls it the Bridge Program. So when you talk to your advisor at a university, make sure you talk to your advisor at a community college to make sure that you apply and you get admitted, and also that you take the classes that you need, as well as applying for scholarships. Some programs do have prerequisites, especially those majors in science, engineering, and things in the healthcare like nursing. Students take classes in their potential majors such as social and behavior studies, business, education, or criminal justice in their first semester. You're not sure, once again, about what you want to major in? It's okay, right? We change our minds all the time. In fact, I probably changed my career 2 or 3 times, and I still don't know what I want to do in life, but I love what I do. Once you make a plan, you choose your major. You want to break it down for your first semester, for your second semester, for your first year, for your second year. When you see an advisor, at least when I saw an advisor and I knew what I wanted to major in, I wasn't asking that advisor what to take. I knew what I wanted to take, right? I knew what classes that I needed. I knew what prerequisites that I needed, and I knew the sequence and the order that I was necessary. So when I sat down with them, I already had my plan out. And I said, I want to take this class, and this class. I want to work on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I want to be done with school by 2 or 3. So make sure that you contact, once again, your advisor at a university and your advisor at the community college. Like our community college, Mesa Community College, and many of the Maricopa Community College, we have what you call a transfer center. So you can go to campus or virtually talk to a U of A advisor, talk to an NAU advisor, talk to an ASU advisor or a GCU advisor. So a lot of times it's very convenient. Many colleges have university transfer admission programs as well. And remember, if you have any questions, I would think if you are in high school right now, the first thing that I talked to was my counselor. I also visited the Career Center. And a lot of you, we talk about advisors. When you're in high school, you think of them as counselors. Counselors are advisors in high school. In college, your counselor is called an advisor. All right, let's go to the next page. Okay, things you can do right now.
All right.
So,
sorry
about that. Go ahead, Cal.
No worries. So with that being the case, as you start looking at colleges, and as I said, this is such a huge process, and it's a multi-step thing. Assuming that you have found those schools that you want to apply to, and you are ready to apply, what things can you do right now? First things first, as Greg mentioned, build relationships with college counselors, college admissions counselors, college advisors, whatever it is that a school calls it. Those people are the people who are there at that school to help you figure out what do they have that they can offer you. On top of that, if I could give you only one piece of advice today, it would be that talk to people. Talk with your high school counselors, your teachers, your family, your friends who have been through the process, and of course those colleges themselves. And what better place to get those questions answered than here at this event today? So when you go into a college's booth today, videos and info links are all well and good, but talk to reps. That's what they're here for. That's how you're going to get a real feel for the school. And trust me, when I'm reviewing applications and taking them to the admissions committee, I'm much more likely to go to bat for a student if I know them and their situation and I've spoken with them before. Next thing that you can do is essay preparation. Start writing down your stories now. The more personal, the better. That being said, there is such a thing as oversharing. So be careful what you put down on paper. Once you have it down, ask a teacher or a parent to read and revise your admissions essay. Essays are huge, and there are many awesome resources out there for how to write a good admissions essay, but the best resource is ask the admissions counselors at the colleges you are working with. They'll tell you exactly what they're looking for. Next thing, find and do more of the things that make you stand out. That's key. Volunteer activities, work experience, club and sports, personal projects, etc. There's so much out there that you can do. I've had students come to me when I was a high school guidance counselor and say, listen, the only thing that I've done for the past 3 years is play video games. How am I going to turn that into realistic experience? I say, have you founded a club at the school? Have you looked into leadership opportunities within the local community that have to do with that? Have you worked or had a job hosted around that? There's so much you can do with the skills and the passions that you already have that make you look like an exceptional person. The last thing that I will suggest that you start doing right now is learn to navigate the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. No matter what school you are going to, no matter whether it be college, university, community college, technical program, you will want to complete the FAFSA. For my students who come into our school, students who have a completed FAFSA typically have double the financial aid of students who do not complete a FAFSA. There are lots of awesome resources within this state to do that. For example, College and Career Goals Arizona, C2GA, which is an Arizona State Department of Education program designed to help students understand it. Collegegoal.az.gov, that's where you'll find that. And I would, this will be your number one source of aid in many cases. It will take you, after scholarship cost of attending, to say, from say $100,000 a year to $2,000 a year. And it opens, here's the big part, October 1st, in just a couple of weeks from right now. It closes June 1st for colleges and universities, June 30th for the late deadline. So you'll want to get it done as soon as possible, because I've seen it before where students put it off and off and off and off. Then they're like, okay, it's June 1st, I got to do it now. And then sometimes if you get audited and they need additional information from you, they can take 2 months to approve your FAFSA. So you want to get on it sooner rather than later. And how do you find out more information? There, also, the FAFSA website. Use their helpline. They're great. And of course, the colleges and universities that you're working with already. I have helped students complete more FAFSAs than I can count in my time. Now, moving on to that, our frequently asked questions. I tried to make some slides where all of these different things made sense, but there's so many different questions that we get a lot, and these were kind of the ones that pop up the most. First things first, how many colleges should I apply to? Well, the average student in the US applies for 8 schools. That's a bit scary to me, but 8. I know students who only applied to 1 or 2, which means there's somebody out there applying for 15 and 16. So now out there's all sorts of strategies about how many reach, target, and safety schools to apply for. But here's what I always say. Apply to the schools that feel right to you. If you have 8 schools that feel right to you, great, but you may want to spend some more time figuring out what you want and what's important to you. If a school feels like a community where you can be happy for the next 2 to 4 years, then go for it. Apply. Next one that we get a lot of is, what are application fees? Many colleges and universities have them. Not everyone does. They can be as low as $25, such as at NAU, or as high as $85, like at ASU and U of A. These fees act as a barrier to apply, making sure that students are serious about a school when they apply to it. Other schools, like Prescott or many community colleges, don't have an application fee, but instead use different barriers. For us, it's an essay or a formal interview. Some schools may require all 3. So can you waive these fees? Well, sometimes, frequently, yes. And this year more so than ever before, where the state schools have made their application fee available for students completing the Common App. So ask your admissions counselors for those waivers. Yet again, this is where that relationship building becomes key. So, like I said, build those relationships, go back and ask those counselors, can I have an application fee waiver? That's how you'll get those. And they are more than willing to give them to students that they have interacted with before, more so than they are to students who they've never really heard from. So, next question, what about Common App? Common App's a big deal out there. The opportunity to apply to many different schools simultaneously, that sounds great. And I will say that typically this is an awesome opportunity to apply for many schools at once. You will, of course, want to check and make sure that the schools that you plan on applying for are available on Common App. Most of the schools in Arizona are, but not all of them. And sometimes fee waivers can, of course, be a bit weird when interacting with Common App because they are a separate independent company. Furthermore, Common App, as a separate independent company, frequently asks for a lot more information than colleges will ask for on their application. Most college applications take between 10 and 20 minutes to complete, whereas the Common App can take upwards of an hour to 2. But if you're planning on applying to 3 or more colleges, it can be a great time. Last but not least, how has COVID-19 affected this process? Well, from the college and university side, I can speak to the fact that there has been a huge movement away from test scores, maybe temporarily, maybe permanently. Schools that were test optional, like Prescott, have really seen a significant drop in the number of students who even submit test scores. And other schools that used to require them may have cut out the requirement completely. Secondly, colleges, and I say this with all authenticity, completely understand, students, that your spring and fall of 2020 was all sorts of wonky, and that your grades and everything might look a bit weird. They'll look different than they did in the past. And guess what? We're okay with that. We totally understand. We know what's going on. So what do you do? How do you take that? Be honest and be transparent. Talk to your counselors and tell them what happened, tell them what's going on, tell them your situation. And of course, if you have an admissions essay, that's a great place to do that. Furthermore, researching which schools are on campus right now and which ones aren't going to be returning to campus for another year or two. While many of those schools have yet to make that decision, some schools have been able to return to campus without any cases of COVID. Some have returned to campus and had outbreaks, and others are still waiting it out. Greg, anything to add on that?
Well, I just wanted to say, number one, when I was going to look into colleges, I was afraid, actually. I didn't think I was that caliber of a student, right? I didn't think that I could actually succeed in a college academically. And I want to assure all of you, if I can do it, all of you out there can. You have the mental and you have the physical intellect to do it. So just remember, it's more about your confidence, your ambition, and your drive. I took classes, with students that were much brighter than I was, but they were lazy and they didn't work for it. When we're talking about virtual services, I know that just the other day, I was on a virtual service for Cox, like for an hour, right? I was trying to chat with them. I was on phone with them, and it took a long time. And I can tell you, our institution and a lot of other institutions, I think it was a lot quicker in person than it is virtually. So I would say that is the one reason, and Cal kind of indicated that: start early, start often, because it does take some time. What I also wanted to add before we go into the question and answer portion, and Callan kind of alluded to this too, you got to have funding for it, right? I did not want to get out of school with $30,000 of debt. I did a combination. I did scholarships, I did grants, and I worked, right? And if you plan it, you can do that as well. The great thing about today, about October 17th, about November 27th, if you visit 3 booths today, you are entered in for a 500 scholarship. I believe that to be true. As these virtual fairs move on, there's going to be incentives at some of the other colleges, just the fact that you visited that college or that booth. We have taken, and we've been preparing for this for 3 or 4 months, and there's a lot of information in the booths. But the most important thing that Callan said is talk to people. Talk to people about what your talents are, what you are interested in, what skills that you have. Over my lifetime and over your lifetime, you will spend more time at your job than you probably will with your family. So ideally, you should be in a field that you love. And remember, it's not all about the money. I know I started that out, but if you are in a discipline, a major, a career that you love, you're going to make good money and you're going to be happy. Right now, Callan mentioned this earlier too. The number one reason students drop out of colleges is because they did not get engaged. All they did, they walked in the door, they turned on their computer, they heard their professor, they turned off their computer, they left campus, they didn't get engaged, and so they weren't fulfilled. Get to know your classmates. Involve yourself in school, not only now, but in the future. If you do that, you're going to be happier. And if you are happier, you're going to be more successful. Callan, do you have anything else we want to add till we go on to the Q&A?
No, I don't. I'd love to hear from some of our listeners and see if anybody has any questions or clarifications that they would like to hear. If you do have any questions for any of us, we will be putting in a survey into the chat at the end of this, and feel free, or we ask you to please fill that out so we know how to make this better next time. And if you need to contact either of us, our contact information is up on the screen. So if you have a question, please put it into the Q&A.
I also wanted to take this time to recognize Gregorio Ramos. He is the one that has kind of been answering your chats as we've been speaking live. It's a team effort, I can tell you that. And so I hope some of your questions have been answered. Did you know I found out this week that the Mesa public school system, 53% of their students are Latino now, right? My parents didn't know anything about college, right? They couldn't advise me in any way. There's lots of programs, not only at this booth, but at institutions online, so you can learn about college, the application process, how to fund it, how to get support. And the great thing, like Gregorio Ramos, he's bilingual. So if your parents, that's one of the most important things, is your parents want you to be successful. They want you to be happy. In some cases, unlike mine, the money tree had died in the back. They're also helping you pay for it. So a lot of the sessions that we're having today and in the future and on campus, we want to invite your parents. They need to learn that too. When you're doing the FAFSA, they need their taxes. So involve them, ask them questions, and get engaged.
All right, awesome. We had a great question. Is there any way you can talk to someone virtually over the phone about ourselves for college? Of course there is. Here at the college fair today, on all these colleges booths, you have the option to video chat with all of the schools, or schedule calls or Zoom calls like this with them at another time. How do you do that? Well, hop on their booths, go to their website, or just call them. For me, I spend a good portion of my day, easily an hour or two a day, Zoom calling with my students or talking to them on the phone. And that's what we do. That's what we're here for. That's what those admissions counselors are for. In-person visits are always awesome and great, and I definitely recommend to visit every school you plan to apply to. However, you can't go visit there every time you want to talk to them. Call them on the phone, Zoom with them, whatever.
We, for example, at Mesa Community College, we are on social media. If that's a platform that you like, that you want to communicate with, do it. Of course, we have the email. We have the Cranium chat. When today's over in about 10 minutes, that's, 2 or 3 days, a question's going to come up, right? Some of those lines, we have a phone line. We also have Cranium chat. So you can do a live interaction with a advisor, an assistant, somebody from our office, even 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And that's throughout the Maricopa Community College District. I don't know if you all know this, but we are one of 10. We're like Circle K. We are on every corner of Arizona. And we have community colleges up in the northern Arizona, down in Tucson. So absolutely, and that's one of the good things. Start ahead. For me, I'm the kind of person who I like talking with someone. I've been doing some of these chat things, and I'm not a fast typer, and I don't type correctly all the time. So I love to talk to someone. If that's your mode, absolutely do that.
Awesome. Yes. We had a question for you, Greg, from Rhonda Jones saying, Greg, for community college, I'm interested in oh, you got that one? Let's see. Just disappeared.
Thanks, Rhonda.
The Sequoia art program. Are there scholarships available for community college students other than FAFSA? What do you suggest I do first? Do I need to visit the office at Phoenix?
The one thing I want to tell you guys is when you are choosing an institution of higher education, if you have the money and if you have the time, go visit it. Go on campus, walk around. Remember, it's got to be the right fit. At our institution, we have a virtual tour. You can look at it that way if that was good for you. In regarding to financial aid and the FAFSA and scholarships, we have 2 sets of scholarships at our institution. You can apply for Maricopa Community College scholarships. It's a kind of an easy system. You put in what you're interested in, what your background is, what your major, and then scholarships come to you and say, these 10 scholarships are available for you. We also give out scholarships on campus at MCC directly. We have a foundation. We have donors. I can tell you, whatever field you're getting into, whether it's art, whether it's ceramics, whether it's EMT, whether it's a nursing, a dental hygienist, right? Maybe you want to get into cybersecurity. There are scholarships out there for you. The number one thing I want you to know about funding your education is don't rely on the website at ASU or MCC to get all the money you need. You need to go online. There are so many scholarships. I ran across a scholarship the other day that the only criteria was that you applied for 2 other ones, and they wanted to make up the difference. They have scholarships out there for people that are not the 4.0. They have scholarships out there for people who are 2.5 like I was, people that are students of color, right? Students that want to get into a certain program that they want to encourage, career and technical education. So what I would do, and my best friend did this, and I can tell you I was not good at it. I don't know what the barrier is. I have 2 daughters. They didn't apply for scholarships. I pushed them and pushed them and pushed them. My best friend went to University of Hawaii, and he got his undergraduate and his graduate program completely paid for because he spent an hour in the library researching. He got so good at it, he was able to use the ones that he had done to reapply. And those scholarships that he got, most of them, many of them, as long as he kept his GPA up, he could reapply for them. He didn't have to keep going back. So be creative in what you're thinking about. The grant is the free money. Work study, you work on campus and you get paid. And the federal financial aid, whether it's taxed or not, is money that you got to pay back, right? So that's the one we're going to try to avoid. But for me, I couldn't help it. I didn't have any help. I was on my own. I was working all the time. That was my engagement. I worked in the Career Center. That was my engagement on campus because they took care of me and they helped me find a job at the university. So yeah, that was a great question. Thank you, Rhonda.
All right, it looks like we've answered all the questions we had in the Q&A. If you have a question, make sure you put it in there quick so we can get it answered before the end of our Q&A session. But yeah.
Once again, before you guys leave, let's give them that survey. Have we given them the survey yet?
The survey is in the chat link, so if you go to the chat, you should see the link to the survey.
Awesome, thank
Now,
you.
I want you guys to know, if you fill that survey out correctly, you could be entered to win a new car. No, that's a joke. You could be entered to go on a vacation, or you could be entered to win $5,000. No, we need that survey, though. We really want to make this a better experience the next time on October 17th and November 27th. I want to encourage everybody, every time that we have these virtual fairs, the next one is October 17th. Maybe you want to go to the FAFSA session. Every time we have a fair, if you visit 3 booths, you're eligible for a $500 scholarship. Awesome. I think that's about it. I don't know if TJ needs to take over.
We just had one new question pop in. I'll answer that one before we hand it back off with a little bit of time we've got left. Anonymous attendee asked, what are some good things to include if we have to write essays for college? I'll say that there's a lot of different things that you want to talk about, but a lot of it depends entirely, as I mentioned, on the colleges themselves, the particular colleges, and what exactly it is they're looking for. For me, if a student has, say, low grades in their history or low test scores, I'll want to see them explain why that is. If they don't have any extracurricular participation, I'll want to see why. But for the most part, be yourself, be passionate. Whatever it is you are passionate about, whatever it is you're interested in, make that passion evident and be authentic about and to you. And that's where you're going to grab people and make them really want you to be a member of their school, because they're going to feel like you will succeed because you're passionate about something. Someone who is passionate is much more likely to succeed than someone who's just good at taking tests. Awesome question.
That's an excellent point, Cal. You know, the other thing, you know, I had a lot of good content when I wrote, but my grammar was terrible. So please, Cal mentioned this earlier, have somebody else read it, right? Make sure that your punctuation is correct, things of that nature. Before we leave, I just had to thank all of you. You guys took the time out of your Saturday to be online and to listen to us. And we are honored and we are grateful that you did that. I want to just thank you for your higher education goals. We want all of you to go to school. It's a great return on investment. I want to thank your parents. If there's any parents that are out there or counselors that are listening, I want to thank you for joining us. And I hope to see many of you again or hear from you at one of our school or any other school that you want in the future. Have a great day and have a great fall semester.
Thank you so much. And make sure you join us if you haven't gotten all the contact with colleges that you wanted to today. The next fair dates are October 27th and November 17th. So October 27th and November 17th. Thank you all again.
I think it's October 17th. No. Yeah. October. Oh, you're right. You're right. I apologize for that. You're right. The 27th and the 17th.